So here we are. Here we are in separate places.
Hmm. Who saw this coming?
The entire world. For those of you who weren't aware and are listening to this podcast, I've been visited by Lady Rona, and I've had to stay.
Hateful hell bitch herself.
I've had to stay in Palm Springs for 5 days at least until it clears. And Teague and Bailey don't have symptoms and had negative reps, so they're off on the adventure as planned, and then I'll jump forward and meet them in Orlando. Hopefully, all things going well. If I recover quickly enough.
Yes. If you're listening, please send your best wishes to Michael for swiftest possible recovery and linking up with us in Florida.
Yeah. Hopefully the quality of this recording is okay, seeing we're having to record via Zoom. But we wanted to get the episode done for you anyhow, so here we are.
Yeah, this is our commitment to you.
We want to create the content for you to listen.
That's right. It's a labor of love.
So this episode is a recap of the 3 shows that we saw in LA, and we've tried to be a little more organized so we don't ramble on for quite as long as we did in the first episode.
What are you trying to say, Michael?
I mean, it was glorious from beginning to end.
But we want a little less time between the beginning and the end for the sake of everyone listening.
Bless you all for your perseverance. But that said, Tori fans who listen to podcasts are likely to be familiar with the Songs of Tori Amos podcast, which is, they're good 2.5 to 3 hour episodes each time. So, we're just snack size compared to that.
That's right. They're a filibuster. Bless them bless Eve and David and how friggin' hard they work to bring so much to the community. So we're just a morsel. Enjoy. Yes,
tasty morsel at that.
Hi, I'm Michael Earp.
And I'm Bailey Turner.
Welcome to Michael's Walk,
the podcast.
Michael's Walk is a road trip, a search for something. Spoilers, it's myself, and it was inside all along.
If only it were that simple.
Driven by Tori Amos's album, Scarlet's Walk, I'm recreating the journey Scarlet took in its 20th anniversary year.
I'll also be there.
With the loving and patient,
always patient,
support of Bailey and Teague Lee, 3 trans queers set out across America.
That's 33 states in 55 days.
To connect with the songs, the land that inspired them, and the fans inspired by the songs. We'll talk music, travel, healing, and hope as we ask the questions: how do I heal from 15 years of coercive control and manipulation?
And what role does the music we listen to play in our own relationship narratives?
We've self-produced this podcast and trip.
You can support us via GoFundMe.
For the full story, head to michaelerp.net.
So first night in LA was pretty special for us, wasn't it?
We were incredibly lucky and very grateful to be upgraded to the front row. It was surreal and incredible, and I didn't dare hope that would happen for us, and so it was incredible that we actually got that experience.
Absolutely. And a huge thank you and sending all the love to David Henderson for being so kind as to let us have that experience. And it made for a very great sort of return to the tour after missing Phoenix. And I found the set to be just really warm and inviting, and there was some really beautiful, powerful stuff in there.
Yeah, there were things that took me by surprise, ones that had not connected to at all in the past, but then having us sing them live, just bam, there they were.
Yeah.
But,
which one was that?
Martha's Foolish Ginger in particular was always one that I had never disliked, but had never spent much time with. I don't think I'd even paid attention to the lyrics all the way through. Whereas live, it was again just like she was singing it for me and what I needed to hear. And it's from Beekeeper, which in vibe, and Jamaica Inn is the song that I have tattooed on my body in her handwriting. So it was a lovely connection to make, and I certainly have a deeper appreciation for it now.
Yeah, there was a lot of Beekeeper on that night. And I think it was, what I love about that is it created the Beekeeper is such a divisive album, and there is a real schism in the fandom around sort of the Beekeeper. So hearing so much of it was a real gift for those of us who love Beekeeper and who have a very special attachment to it. I would count myself as one of those people. And Martha's absolutely was right on point for us, literally from that opening line, take a walk down memory lane with me. And that's exactly what we're doing. And so to sort of listen to all that sort of stuff, and it was great.
The chorus too, if those harbour lights had just been half a mile inland, who knows what I would have done.
Exactly.
Here I am reassessing my choices and my past, and if I'd known things differently, would I have if only I could have made different choices, but I can't.
Did it really bring up the concept to you, or did it bring to mind like the turning points in your relationship? Like, do you have an identification of those kinds of things throughout that sort of 15-year history that you have?
I feel like I guess it's, for me, my experience with it that night was more accepting where I am right now with a bit more grace. Like, you can spend all day thinking, if only I'd made a different decision, but it doesn't change where you are now. And I think that song was just a really nice way to say, but you're here now. And so, just take your past as your past. And
absolutely.
Yeah, you see the harbour lights for where they are now. So
I suppose the reason why I ask is, when we sort of look at this stuff in sort of the main part of the podcast, is looking at what opportunities you can identify to make a different decision, and what it was that caused you to make the decisions that you did make, and why that's still valuable because of where you are now. And I think I just thought that listening to Martha's, I was like, deserves some examination as to why we choose, if we're faced with that kind of crossroads, if we are able to identify them at all, why do we go, now is not the time for me to consider relinquishing the relationship that's been built, or a decision that I know will kind of ultimately be difficult for me, but it would be easier to do this than to do that. I think that's what it kind of brought up for me, and what I thought was it worth us examining throughout the walk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And afterwards I was like, well, seeing I've never connected with this, let me look into things a bit more. And I looked into ginger as a symbolic thing. I feel like it's in more reference to the flowers on a ginger rather than the ginger root, which is what I'd always thought. And the symbolism behind ginger flowers are all passion and love and affairs of the heart.
Yeah, right. A foolish love kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
That makes it even clearer for me, from my perspective, that I guess the reason I stayed, answering your question earlier, was that I had this fervent love for the ideal of the relationship that I thought I had. And it wasn't until I saw behind the facade that it was constructed on lies and manipulation, that I started to see that what we didn't have was love. What we had was routine and this sort of blind commitment to each other.
Yeah, right. And the other Beekeeper track that got a showing on first night was Ribbons Undone, and it made me so happy. It's such a beautiful song. And I know that it's once again like one of those songs that the fandom sort of seems to collectively gang up on. But hearing it so gorgeously brought in and seeing how Tori kind of really lit up when she played, I was like, I don't want to hear another word from any of you about Ribbons Undone. You can all shut up.
But also I mean, maybe I'm, reading too much into it from an experience that's not my own, but sitting next to you in that front row, hearing Tori sing that song made me think entirely of your journey to womanhood.
Mm.
And just the way you've matured as a trans woman in the short time since transitioning. Like, I was reading an absolute trans narrative in those lyrics.
Absolutely. And that sort of that youthful joy that you can feel when you hit the reality of your womanhood at long last, and it's just so pure, especially that bridge. That bridge just gets me every time. It's just so it's pure. It's pure spirit of a young girl with nothing to be afraid of. And sung from a woman who's experienced so much to fear. And to hear how it kind of colors her optimism, it just floors me, that song. I think it's really brilliant. Precious.
Absolutely. And right before that, she had sung Losing My Religion, the cover blended in with Ruby Through the Looking Glass, which was just a stunning pairing, and really quite moving for me, because the way I read Ruby, obviously I was assigned male at birth, so I don't have a womb and will not be giving birth to children myself. But the Ruby inside me is my feminine energy. And so I really do get this sense of like what the external conflict that happened between us in that relationship, I was trying to nurture this part of myself inside, and like the, don't you think she hears us fighting, all of this sort of thing. Like, Ruby is really special to me. Yeah,
likewise. For similar reasons too, around growing up in an unstable kind of family dynamic, and difficult households and difficult experiences with both parenthood and childhood on both sides of that spectrum. So got Little Earthquakes on the first night, didn't we?
Yeah, that was like the third song, which way to shock us to our core.
Absolutely. That song has so many incredible pieces. I mean, for the sake of what we're discussing, it's that chorus line, here we go again. We're not progressing, we're not moving forward. It's just another sort of small fracture that is just continuing. Like, it is that little earthquakes building up to the big quake. There's sort of those pre-shocks kind of separate us from ourselves, because we're kind of going into survival mode with each one. Like that, I mean, from a trans perspective, that I can't reach you, but I feel you in my head. Woohoo! Trousers. It's all there on the page.
Yeah. I was just going to say that that one always spoken to me about my relationship, because like we would have these tiny little arguments, but then I would write them off at a later time, and I'd just be like, oh, that's just couple bickering. Like that's what this is. But when you add them all together, you look back.
It is. Yeah, it's cataclysmic.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The fracture in a bone,
Also got Riot Puff.
We did.
Was a banger. I love Riot
Such a
Puff.
fun song.
And like it's one of those ones that is like, again, the lyrics are not very clear in what they're talking about, but you can draw so much from it. And this is where I confess an example of Michael's misheard lyrics. So
up next, our next segment.
yeah. Towards the end, she's singing, "The sun is warming, the man is moistening." They're the actual lyrics.
Yes. Yes, they are.
What I've always heard is, "The sun is a warning, the man is a mercenary."
Mm.
I stand by that they're also very good lyrics. And
Oh, so
Mina,
many of the misheard lyrics are so cool.
yes.
Because of how she shapes things. And I think, there's room for all misheard lyrics
Yes,
in the Tory community.
I like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And
It was a really great first show.
yeah. Oh, and Siren. First time I've seen Siren live. Siren.
Just the crowd energy for Siren is so palpable.
Yes. And it's such a banger. And on top of that, like, okay, this was misheard lyrics from like decades ago, but I used to think that the lyrics of that were, "Oh, it doesn't mean she's horny, just means she's got her cellular handy." And I'm like,
Does that mean
oh,
she's horny?
yeah.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh, girl, I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Shit, when you're only wet because of the rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I have long ago corrected that. The actual lyrics, for people who don't know, are, "Doesn't mean she's holy, just means she has a
Holy.
cellular handy."
Which, I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah, true. Exactly. Right. So then night 2, the 16th.
Night 2 was a complete mind-blowing experience. Kind of all started off and everyone was really interested in how the shows were going to sort of go, in the discussions we were having with a lot of the Years with Feet. I was like, well, how's she going to pitch this? It's 3 shows, and I think what's interesting to remember is the second night was supposed to be the final night. That was like, in a way, that was kind of how she was going to go out. And then the third show was a tack on. And it was like, well, where's she going to go with this? Is it going to be, this sort of tribute to Tash that was the first night? And then is it going to be fun, or is this going to be the night that she really kind of takes us to a place, or is this going to be like more of a party vibe? And it happened to be the one where she took us all the way to hell. It was amazing.
So after the 2 openers, the regular openers, which the lovely Rose, who we met on road on the tour, messaged me today about listening to our first episode of the podcast. And she said that she really appreciated our take on those 2 songs because she'd gotten so used to them being the openers that she hadn't stopped to think about why they might be there. And so, yeah, that was lovely to hear.
We love you, Rose.
We love you, Rose. But then we went straight into Crucify, which, wow, this is just the song. It's Teague's top song. So he was like totally in the moment.
Yeah. We knew it was going to be a friggin' riot show from there. Like, just coming in with that was like, oh shit, this is where it's gonna get deep. And the way she did it really had. I mean, she's done the Never Going Backs for so long, but something about hearing them was like, you could see that she was evoking something. It was a real opening.
Like, on top of that, for me, the way she was singing "Never Going Back, Girls," "Never Going Back Again," "Never Going Back, Boys," "Never Going Back Again," and then "Never Going Back, Days." And yeah, when she sang that, it felt so validating. Like, I really felt seen. And they're never going to crucify themselves again.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Killer.
Freaking powerhouse. And then
straight into Honey. Oh,
that had everyone in
bawling.
Yeah,
I was
but also
bawling.
like it had while it's a song that kind of has a real sorrow to it, it hit me in a really defiant space. I just felt a real femme defiance in it, and a sort of pity of, you know, whoever could misinterpret the gifts of a relationship, and become desensitized to how good they have it, in that relationship, and take it for granted. It really it really got me in the gut. I found myself really kind of like almost wanting to like fist pump it out.
Yeah, for me, it cuts quite close. For me, the chorus, "You're just too used to my honey," but then also the line, "You always liked your babies tight," is quite difficult for me to hear, but it's also one that I feel like taking on that defiant headspace that you were feeling is what I need to do with that song.
Like, I'm not in the wrong here. Everything I'm feeling is a reflection on how poorly you've interpreted how generous I've been.
Exactly.
Like, and like even going down to, the notion that honey is a bee's retirement. Like bees make honey to live off when, like, for sustenance when they're old and they can't be workers anymore, and we take it. But it's that I'm investing in my future here, and you're running it off. Like it's anyway. So yeah, that was a really. It was just a fantastic to hear, and a really great kind of place to get to. Just kind of leveling up.
Yeah. But then what floored everyone was when she sang for the first time in 11 years, "Me and a Gun," a cappella. It's just so powerful.
And the way she did it was unbelievable. And we were just, I remember, because someone was leaving. Remember, someone was walking out of the row. So we were stood up. We were like getting out of someone's way. And I remember, like, as I sat down, you kind of like grabbed my hand and were like, "Prepare yourself." And I was like, "Oh, like, I was like not paying attention. Like, what's going on?" Then like she's like looking, and she's got her mic in her hand, which like you never see.
Yeah.
And a piece of paper. And I'm like, "Oh, is this like a letter? Is this an ordinance? Like, what is this?" And then she started. And it was like full halting, stunned transfixion.
Yeah, the second she turned
like,
to face the audience with the microphone and the paper, I knew exactly what was coming. She doesn't have that many a cappella songs, so
look, fair. It was she wasn't about to sort of pull out an a cappella version of Velvet Revolution. something amazing was going to happen. And like my eyes were like dollar coins, and my jaw just dropped, and I was just like, just take this in, just listen. And the whispers and the growls and the screaming, was every bit of it was exquisite, and almost, it was just overwhelming.
It was
absolutely overwhelming.
Quite overwhelming. And then she went straight from that into Never Seen Blue.
Before we get on to that, I'd really be interested in hearing, for Me and a Gun, is there a particular moment that really gets you in that song?
It's interesting because right before the show, we met some wonderful women in the lounge, and we're talking to them. And one of them, it was their first Tory show in 25 years. And so we were talking about how we came across Tory, and what we were hoping to hear. And one of them, Patty, hi Patty.
Hey Patty.
She said that it was Me and a Gun that really hooked her to Tory back in the day. And one of the things that really grabbed her was but I haven't been to Barbados, so I must get out of this. Because in the last few years, I think shortly before COVID, she actually went on a trip to Barbados. And while she was there, she was like, wow, this is that place, that almost mythical place from that song. So having had that conversation, not knowing that it was coming right before we then walked in and saw it, was pretty surreal. But for me personally, I think it is that line when she sings, "You can laugh. It's kind of funny, the things you think in times like these. Like, I haven't been to Barbados, so I must get out of this." Because for me, I have never been in the situation that the song's describing. I have not been raped. I have not been the victim of sexual assault or physical assault. But my mind would wander to all sorts of places during that relationship and when I was most unhappy. I went straight into that relationship at the age of 18, straight out of home. I was such a baby that, like, when things started going south, the amount of time I would spend daydreaming about just dating someone else. Like, I just wanted lovely, gentle dates with someone where all of this baggage wasn't there. So I guess for me, that is my Barbados. Like, why am I daydreaming about ordering takeout and watching Netflix when that's effectively what I've been doing my entire life, but just with someone else? Like, so I've got to get out of this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it sounds like an idyllic bucket list thing that you kind of have to survive your experience in order to be able to do, even if it's something ridiculous or unexpected. Yeah, that's awesome.
How about you? Because I know
well,
it's
yeah,
a
look,
powerful one for you.
Yeah, well, I have experienced those things in my life, both as an adult and as a child. And for me, it's that do you know Carolina? And it's that sort of wobble in the voice, and it's that also that conversational kind of point. I agree, like, you can laugh, it's kind of funny is like definitely up there, but I love this sort of moment where it's almost like you're running out of things to say, or running out of things to distract you, and so you kind of go back to your hometown almost, and you start cycling through your history just as something to kind of keep your mind occupied while something quite horrific is happening to your body. And one of the times that I experienced these things, I became very chatty, which we understand in the sexual violence prevention space and the trauma-centered space is, as we have fight or flight, but we also have a few others, and one of those is friendly. And it's not uncommon for people to start becoming really nice and really kind to their abuser in order to kind of try and reach some sense of humanity in both parties, so that the person doesn't just see you as an object, and that person sees you as someone to be kind to and loyal to. And it's a big risk to take, but it was definitely something that I experienced one of the times that I experienced sexual violence. And that Do You Know Carolina is that kind of, I'll just keep talking to you, and hopefully it'll either be distracting or endearing, and you'll stop. There's so much in that song, and there's so many different parts that speak to different styles of recovery and different styles of encountering trauma. I just think it's a brilliant piece of art. And yeah, to go into Never Seen Blue after that, which is, I mean, you have a very particular relationship to that song. I don't.
Pardon me. Pardon my Rona. Yes. Yeah, so Never Seen Blue. This is one where when I was listening to the podcast Songs of Tori Amos episode about Never Seen Blue, I found I was absolutely floored by the fact that not a single person on that podcast, not Eve or David, not any of the people that they got in as special guests, and not even any of the quotes that Tori said about that song herself, saw that song as anything but a romantic love song in all of my many listens, because that song like is absolutely beautiful and I love it. In my many listens of that song, not once had romance crossed my mind, because for me, I've never seen blue that the blue he drives in and around and through me again. This is the sadness that can only come from the pain caused by someone who knows you well and is supposed to be on your side. And so for me, that song and every single lyric in it points to when you love someone, but they keep hurting you. Yet everyone, including Tori, says that it's a love song. And I was just blown away by it. And so then to have her sing it solo, just her and the piano, particularly in the emotional state we were all in straight after Me and a Gun, like, again, that just opened up all of that for me, where I really wanted for this sadness caused by the person who's supposed to be my joy in life to stop. When would it stop? Because when you love that person and you want them to love you back in the same way, but they cause you so much pain, like, what do you do with that?
You know, that was kind of, it was at Russia that I finally kind of cracked. And like, for those of you listening, I'm not really much of a crier. I'm an Aquarian, I have no feelings. And like Tori shows, I think it's a notorious kind of thing of people who kind of have breakdowns and cry in Tori concerts. And it's not really been my experience, except what I would say is 2 times now, because I had a complete meltdown when she played Mother in Brisbane on the closing night of the Unrepentant Geraldines tour. And that was like more of a panic attack than a tearing, and a tear up. Russia off the back of Me and a Gun and Never Seen Blue was felt for me as a very particular remark to be made about sexual violence in politics and in the community that is completely unaided by political structures, and is often reinforced by political structures. We've got, especially in America, where Roe versus Wade is looking at being overturned. There's a huge assault on, reproductive rights. Laws that are being put back in place in America don't protect people from being raped and falling pregnant, or being a victim of family abuse and falling pregnant. It doesn't protect them as young people or as adults from that. So Russia just felt this real great kind of, what are you doing about this? Back home, back in Australia, we're having a really serious problem with like women being murdered by their domestic partners. At the moment, it's just the numbers are kind of climbing quite dramatically, and I can't imagine what that situation is like here. But in America, there have been more trans women murdered than days of the year at last time I had a look into this. So that's really what kind of cracked me, was that there are people who are literally watching this happen, who have the power to fund things and install programs and create better rehabilitation structures and preventive sort of systems, and they just don't, because it doesn't make any money. And that stuff just breaks my heart that, people just don't care about us. And Russia that night had a particular, and I felt like what that did to Cornflake Girl in the show was really revive her true meaning. Like Cornflake Girl is such a bop. It cannot be denied. It's such a fun song. At the end of the day, that song is about crimes against women by women, particularly in the case of genital mutilation. And that is also a very active discussion happening that is being twisted to stop trans children from expressing themselves properly and receiving healthcare support that is appropriate to their stage of development. And it's just kind of like, it is that thing of like, well, this is not really happening. It can't be real. We can't really be overturning Roe versus Wade. We really can't be electing this person into office. There can't be, you bet your life it is. You bet your fucking life this is happening. And if you're concerned about, surgery, genital reconstruction surgeries on children, then why the fuck are you doing it to intersex kids? It wasn't our idea. You've already been doing this to kids for hundreds of years. kids who are born with intersex variations. You are performing gender reconstruction on babies. So it's a no. Your argument is bullshit and you're all hypocrites. Conflict Girl just had that real power to her that night, which I don't know how many other people would have kind of clued into, but I'm like, this song is actually really fucking intense, and is intense for feminine humans who are just having their bodies destroyed and their lives taken. And Conflict Girl really hit for me that night in particular. It like left me in a very different place than it normally does, where I'm just kind of having a bit of a party.
It was particularly powerful. And then the first encore was Sugar, which again, first time I've heard Sugar live and with a band.
Me too. Yeah, definitely.
Sugar is another one that I find interesting because, again, some people read romantic connotations to it.
Oh no.
Sugar, he brings me sugar. But like, for me, I can't get over the officially released live version where she talks at the beginning of it.
Yeah, how can you can't remember how many sugars a woman takes in her tea after 9 months?
Yeah. And so, like, with that as the opener to a live version, to me, it's always been about people who don't know the person that they're with or what they need after a length of time. And that, if I could just take 25 minutes out of the record books, for me, that could be everything from the 15 years that I wish I could erase from my record books to the 25 minutes that it maybe took me to make the decision to go into it. Where do you start when you start erasing the past? And where does that leave you? Oh, yeah. I love that song.
Yeah, I think like it's, for me, I agree with you that it's not a love song or a romantic song. I first really cottoned onto that song when I was in a really tricky situation with someone who I'd had a really powerful connection with. I went around and I was like, I'm going to marry this guy. This is years ago now. And then upon sort of spending more time with him, realizing that we were not compatible at all, and we had a real capacity to harm one another, didn't emerge in the beginning. And by that time, we were so enmeshed that it was very difficult to work out how to unstitch it without everybody falling to pieces. But it was that thing of like, when I sort of met him, he seemed incredibly solid in himself. And then upon that, I discovered that there was so much underneath that was jelly legs, and a complete kind of inability to cope with things. And maybe this is a cruel way to sort of read that, but when I listened to Sugar around that time, it was like, when they find out you're just a pussy, my sweet boy, like, no wonder you're so troubled, and no wonder why you have so much trouble. And I want to unstitch this. I want not to be with you because we're not. This is very painful. This is very challenging, and this is eroding other parts of my life. But he brings me sugar, and it's just like that's a fact that can't be denied either. And there's something in particular that he brings to my life that I have to account for. Yeah, so that I've always seen that song as like a real tortured, this is over, but it's not over quite yet kind of thing, because there's still something that you bring me that I want to show appreciation for. And I don't want to hurt you by throwing it back in your face.
Yeah. Oof. And we've done the thing we said we wouldn't do. Ramble on.
I don't feel like anyone's rambled at all. This is all valuable.
Absolutely. But we will move on to the final night, which for me, there were moments in literally every song on the set list that night that really felt like she was sending us off on our trip, because this was the night before we left for our drive, setting out for Palm Springs, which is apparently now my resting place.
You want to see America?
Yeah. And everyone's saying, when I'm saying like I'm stuck in Palm Springs, they're like, oh, well, it's a nice place to be stuck. And I'm like, I'm in my hotel room. I cannot go anywhere. Like,
and it's like boiling hot and everything's expensive.
Everything is so expensive.
Oh, had this really hilarious moment. We went to breakfast, and there was someone sitting behind me, and a woman went, an older woman turned to them and said, "Oh, it's really brave of you to wear that," pointing to his t-shirt. I didn't know what the t-shirt was because it was set away from me. And she mentioned that it was a Trump supporter. And when he turned around to go, the teacher said, "Don't blame me, I voted for Trump." And I can't tell because the woman said like, "Oh, I think it's really brave of you to wear that." It sounded really sarcastic. And he was like, "Yeah, thanks for your support." It's like, was she supporting you, or was she like telling you that you're a jerk? I'm not sure what's happening here, but yeah, it was so yeah, Palm Springs is a mixed bag. But look, I'll tell you this, it's a shit ton better than Ash Fork, Arizona, which is where I am right now. So, better we found out this morning than this afternoon. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, night 3 had a very particular triptych in it, which were all requests. Holy moly! Did you just want to kick you right in the feels?
So it started with Your Cloud, which is on Scarlet, and so we will talk about it in much more detail later.
There's a lot to unpack there. Yeah.
But again, this is one that I have always interpreted as a romance, and now I see that it is not that. Who we were isn't lost before we were us. So beautiful.
I mean, that song has a very particular connection for me with my brother, and that song is all about grief. For me, it's entirely about the grieving process and how you carry on from someone with whom you felt almost unspeakably close.
Yeah.
And do so with as much tenderness as you can muster. It's a beautiful song.
Absolutely. And then straight into Jamaica Inn, which, as I've said before, is, it's a kicker. I have The Sexiest Thing Is Trust tattooed, and I remember getting that done a short time after my ex was arrested for the first time. And so this was me trying to process what had gone on and what I thought we had between us. And all I wanted was trust. Like, that's what it says to me. Like, the only thing I need is trust. And when you can't trust, what do you have? It's certainly not sexy, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I have strong memories of, I was living in Sydney at the time, and then I drove up to the Central Coast where I grew up to go to a tattoo parlor that a lot of my friends used at the time. And I got it done there. And then I drove home. It's about an hour and a half drive. And I was bawling the entire drive home, just me in the car with that song on repeat. Because where had the trust gone?
Yeah, absolutely. And the tattooing, like, making a mark on your body map, a permanent mark, is also, it's a physical trauma that you've experienced. So it would have been incredibly unlocking for your body as well to do that. Relatable content. I have a similar relationship with that song. I have no idea if you actually know this, that after seeing her in 2014, me and a bunch of people got together to work on a collaborative creative outfit called the Jamaica Inn Collective. Have I told you about this?
No.
Yeah, so it was that song, and I had a very particular relationship. And so we formed a business called the Jamaica Inn Collective, which was about 5 of us who are all big Tory fans, kind of all working on different things. And unfortunately, right in the midst of it, we were doing a big fundraising campaign, and I got glandular fever. And unfortunately, none of those people kind of showed up for me to lift us over the line. And the kind of whole thing basically folded in the end, which was really devastating to me, because it was a very precious exercise. That song very much has a very particular connection to my history, and at a very particular time in my life where I was separating from living with a dependent who I had living with me at the time, someone who was very dependent on my income and on my accommodation, and so that was very difficult to find, to sort of separate from them, and but that was very much a what I thought, someone who I thought was a lighthouse in my life was continuing to just bash me against the rocks. That was very, very powerful to hear, particularly off the back of a song about my brother, to hear a song about this other person. And then she went into Landslide.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I think I shut down, to be honest. I just couldn't take anymore.
I was just like a puddle of tears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, it was beautiful. And the way she, even just that beautiful moment in the middle of it where she was, I'm getting older too. And she's like, finally, and she was just celebrating her seasons of life was really beautiful, and just gave it a whole bunch more meaning. Yeah, she was having so much fun up there on the last night. That's what made it feel really great. You could see she was just really enjoying every minute of it. Yeah.
Because there was a moment in it where she's saying, walk with me, and Bailey squeeze my knee, because that is one of the slogans that Teague came up with for this project.
Awesome. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And then, I think having Pretty Good Year to really close the show, which wasn't a planned song.
Yeah.
Where it is that sort of, you want to see America, well, let me tell you something about America notion in there of, and like I was thinking of Tom Bigby, we talked about this after the show, like rolling the red carpet out to Oklahoma.
And then we got back to I was like, it's a shame we're not going to Oklahoma. And then we get back to our rental car and it's red with Oklahoma plates.
That was amazing. Amazing. Yeah, you just can't write this shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, suffice to say, we had an amazing 3 shows.
And even tear in your hand with,
of course,
it's time to wave goodbye now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then she's saying just for a time. And it was
that's right.
Nice to hear that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and Spring Haze was in there too. I just want
to let go off on our way.
Yeah, there was another line in it that really got to me. And my only way out is to go so far in. And it really smacked me in the head, because I'm like, that's what I did to escape the situation I was in. I retreated, I withdrew from everyone, including myself. And I just created this sort of mental cage where I just played a role and got on with things. And it was my only way out. Yeah. Oof. Thank you for talking that with me. We want to say thank you to a whole bunch of people.
We do.
There was the fantastic after party on Thursday night after the second show, which would have been after the final show of the tour until another one was added, but that's fine. We're not complaining, because what a show. But to Ephraim, David, DJ Mateo, and Mrs. Krabby Apple for performing. Oh my God, so good.
And the other drag queen whose name we cannot recall or find. We love you, sis.
Yeah. But your performance of Bliss was delightful. I love it.
Yes. Thanks for bringing naked men into the equation. That's what Tori needs more of, naked men. But I wanted to quickly point into something. I had someone come up to me at the after party who was like, I saw you 2 days ago and you told me about this party, and I'd heard about it, but I wasn't going to come, and I'm so glad I came because you told me to. Thank you so much. So it was just such a great heavenly night where you just, very rarely can you be in a space that's just with your people, and they may not, you may not always agree, but it was like a family reunion almost, like where everyone gets along, everyone speaks the same language, everyone's there celebrating the same thing and loving being around each other, and that everyone kind of understands what it is that you're on. So just long may it live, the Toronto Night Songs of Tori Amos Sideways Society after party.
Absolutely.
And yes, big thanks to Danny as well.
Yes. And then I'm just going to read these names out real quick. We made a big list of people that we met, and they're in no specific order. Kenny Julock, Rose, Jess, David H. and Matt Page, Geordie.
Matt Page,
Ryan.
because Matt upgraded us. Well, upgraded Tegan Michael on the first night, and just for just
Oakland.
being one of the loveliest humans.
So lovely.
Thanks, Matt.
Geordie, Ryan, and Dan.
Thanks for dinner
Thanks for dinner so much.
and for all the things, you gorgeous
Yes.
gays.
I will be seeing you again at the end.
Yay!
Erica, Mariah, and Patty, who are just a delight. Peachy.
Yeah, love Peachy. Stan.
Yes. Nan, who met up with me, even though it's like I'm so nervous meeting people, and with timings, it turned out that she had to come meet me with a group of when I was with a group of people, and so she was quite nervous. But I'm so glad that we connected, and we'll talk again more. Abdi, Jay, Jerry, and
Oscar.
Josh. Oh yeah, Jay and Oscar.
Yeah, thank you for being a very critical part of the experience, Jay and Oscar. Thank you.
Jerry and Josh.
Yay.
The team that are Mrs. Krabby Apple. My goodness. Well, the performer and the artistic director, as I come to understand
I think
it.
that's fair.
But oh, what a powerhouse they are. Elise.
I love you, Elise.
Sherry, who was so delightful, and I just had such a wonderful but brief conversation with her. So yes, I want to connect with you more, Sherry. Danny, Eve, and Shaggy. Nina.
Love. Nina, rock star. It's so lovely getting to know her a bit better.
Jeff.
Oh, Peter.
The delightful Ryan, who is behind the Instagram account Tori's Red Hair. If you want just a giggle in your day, go and follow Tori's Red Hair. It is
Artistic genius.
my kind of humor. Bridget.
Yay.
Shah.
Bridget and I had a very special,
Oh, yeah.
Bridget, myself, Shah, David, had a very, and Zach Justice,
Zach.
had a very intense experience on the Friday on the last day, which I haven't quite worked out whether I'm going to talk about on the podcast or not. But Bridget and I have known each other since we met in a gutter on the UG tour.
Our Lady J, who we barely connected with.
Yeah, who, if you don't know, is the creative force behind Pose and Transparent and a lot of the American Horror Story stuff, and she's just incredible. It's and a beautiful trans sister. Meeting her has been an absolute trip highline. She's such a charming, kind, and hilarious woman.
I also had a very brief meeting with Pandora Box. Hi, Pandora.
Hey, Pandora.
Pandora.
Box. Wow, it doesn't quite have the same ring, does it?
No, but I would still like to see it performed as such.
Yeah.
And then we wanted to end with a mention of the GoFundMe for Jessica and Sky for their medical expenses after a rather horrific car accident that happened at the beginning of June. It was the one that Eve was talking about at the after party. I threw in a few dollars because I wanted to
That's what we do.
my bit.
Yeah, we're all community and we look after each other.
And so we think you all should too. So the web address for that is bit.ly//
And
Sky SKY.
Yes.
Jump on there, throw them some dollars, whatever you can afford. Every little
recovering.
We know from fundraising that every $5 and $10 helps and goes a long way. So
Absolutely.
and they're in need of it.
Yeah, it all adds up. It takes more people doing little.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Wellsers, there we go. Tour part 2, and next up will be a sort of fairy tale.
No, Amber Waves. We're gonna say.
Oh, Amber Waves. That's right.
But
goody.
yes, there will be proper in-depth episodes digging into each of the songs and our connections with them and connections with our trip. And so they'll They'll be a bit more meaty than just us recapping the shows, but join us for those.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be together when we do.
The Michael's Walk podcast acknowledges that the journey they are undertaking takes place on the sacred and unceded nations of many proud Indigenous peoples. From the lands of the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, we are fortunate to call home, to each and every Native American tribe's land we'll set foot on as we travel. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and humbly acknowledge their sovereignty.